Hi you guys, I'm Miss Erin and I'm a teaching artist for the ACA's summer camps, and I've been teaching art for 12 years in the public school system and in the community. I'm currently teaching with the Talented Art Program for Lafayette Parish Schools, and I'm mostly housed in Youngsville. I've taught drawing, painting, sculpture, Art 1, Art 2. I've taught wheel thrown pottery and hand building classes at Pottery Alley, and I'll be teaching with CYT after school in the winter. And I've actually taught face painting with CYT last fall as well. This video is part of the Acadiana Center for the Arts online series called Virtual Art Studio, where teaching artists present lessons in visual art, dance, music, and more that you can enjoy from anywhere. You can find these videos anytime on the Acadiana Center for the Arts YouTube channel. Let me introduce myself. Hey, I'm Miss Erin, and I work in lots of different media, from clay to pencil to makeup, paper mache, cardboard, and paint. I just love it all. Today, I'm going to show you some of my makeup artwork, and these are designs I've done over the years for Halloween, parties, and then some I've done for students for plays and skits. So the first one is a scary doll. And this one was one that I did with my students when I was in art club. We did a parade in Homa, and this was the design that I came up with to showcase with my students. So they all did some kind of face paint, and we walked down the streets of Homa. The next one is sugar skulls. I'm going to have two of them for you. And this was one actually I did last year. I'm part of the Lafayette Glow Riders, and we decided to dress up. So I did my sugar skull, and we rode in the streets on our bikes in the sugar skull, and I just love the sugar skulls. The next one is going to be a Grinch, and this is one that I did for a student face paint when he was in a Christmas skit in Assumption Parish. So now that you've seen my work, let's talk a little bit more about the visual arts. The visual arts is an art form that focuses on things that are made using materials such as paint, charcoal, clay, glass, ink, or colored pencils, just to name a few. Oftentimes we use art to tell a story or to depict a character. Take, for example, a makeup artist who paints character faces for a play, or makeup artist that does character makeup for haunted houses. Ooh, scary. Today we're going to be makeup artists. We will use color, line, and symmetry to create a sugar skull makeup design. So before we get started, let's talk a little bit about sugar skulls and their origins. Sugar skulls were created to celebrate the Mexican holiday called Dia De Los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. This is a Mexican holiday celebrated in early November, where families remember their loved ones who have passed away. The holiday is not a sad one, but rather a lively festival to celebrate those who have died. You may have seen examples of this celebration if you've watched the movie The Book of Life or Coco. Art with skeletons and skulls is very common for Dia de los Muertos. Sugar skulls, in particular, are one of the most well-known images associated with the holiday. White sugar is pressed into skull shapes and hardened, and once dry, the skulls are decorated with colorful icing designs. The art of Dia de los Muertos is bright and colorful, much like the festival itself. Vibrant tissue paper, bright flowers, and colorful fabrics decorate homemade altars that families make for the holiday. So we will be using bright color, flowers, and line in our sugar skull makeup design. Before we get started, let's make sure we have our supplies ready. You will need cheap Halloween makeup. A set like this is one that I got at Walmart for about $5. You can get it at any local store, probably Walgreens, Hobby Lobby. Those are your craft stores, or you can even purchase it online. I also have this little set. This one is a glow in the dark, which is a cool thing. Addition definitely not needed, but also found it at Walmart. It came with these sticks as well. I tend not to use these as much just because they don't show up as much. Maybe if we put the base coat of white underneath first, it may show up just a little bit more. So we'll check that out. You'll also need liquid eyeliner. I use the Ultraliner waterproof just so that if I'm sweating when I do my makeup, it's not gonna like bleed out. So I'll use that. And I use these for more detailed stuff. Again, something you can find locally really cheap or even in mom's cabinet of makeup. Next, I'll show you our sponges. Our makeup sponges are what we're going to use to apply most of our paints. Sometimes I'll use my finger, and that's for like the grease paints. So makeup sponges. You can also use the ones that are more teardropped, and that's kind of for all over the face stuff. This is not going to be for detailed stuff, right? This is just for big areas. Like when we do the sugar skull and we use our white paint, we're going to be using this over our large surface, right? This doesn't come to a small tip, so you can't really do a lot of small details with this, okay? It also can be used for blending, and I will show you how to do that later. This is the white cream makeup. I purchased both of these at Walmart. This one is cream based. It's pretty liquidy. I would have to put a lot of coats and dry in between for it to be opaque. And when I say opaque, I'm talking about can't see through, like you won't be able to see my skin. This one I found was a lot easier to apply. Didn't have to put as many coats. This one I used with my finger. This one I used with the sponge, and I didn't have to use as many coats, and it just went on really nice. So that's that. Here's a mirror in case you need. For makeup removal, I use Pond's. It works great for all kinds of makeup, both the grease and the cream based. If you're using the grease, you're going to have to wash using soap if you don't have something like Pond's, a makeup remover. And then for the cream based, you can kind of just use water. You'll also need paper towels, and that's to clean off your brush. You'll also need a water bucket to keep your water when you're cleaning out your brush. I use my brush for, again, kind of larger spaces, unless I'm doing super detail, and I'll use a smaller brush, but today I'm going to be using my liquid eyeliner for the details. And that's all for supplies. Hey guys, we're going to get started with our face painting. First thing you're going to need is something to clean your face. I use Pond's and a paper towel. I'm just going to rub it really good to get all my makeup off. You can also just use soap and water. That will do the trick as well. And give it a good scrub. Next, you're going to need your white face paint and a sponge. In the very first part, I show you what not to do. With this, because it's grease makeup, you don't need water. I put water and see what happens when you try to apply. It goes on too light. You need it darker than this. So this is not opaque. This is more translucent. You want a good coat. So you're going to, instead of using water, use a fresh sponge or your finger, because your finger will get that grease paint nice and warmed up. So in this version, I'm not using water. I've used a new sponge, and I'm just rubbing it into the surface of that pad to get that paint nice and opaque on my face, so you almost can't see my skin. Go ahead and go over your eyebrows, over your eyes, and along your cheekbones. Don't go all the way down to the bottom of your face just yet. Just do the top part of your face and come along your cheekbones. I usually kind of outline first and then fill in the inside. And you'll see when you apply, it's kind of cloudy in some areas. If you dab, then it'll be easier for you to not see all the little strokes. So here you see in the video that I am outlining my jawline. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge of my jaw. I'm just going to do a little bit on each side. Go ahead and cover your lips. And you want to look at one side and make sure that you've got symmetry. I look at the empty space of my skin between, my cheek and my lips and see if it looks roughly the same. we'll talk a little bit more about symmetry after a while. So I'm just dabbing to get rid of all those strokes. So there you have the white coat for your sugar skull. Next, I'm going to be using liquid eyeliner. This is for your nose, and so I come roughly from the middle of my nose, and I'm kind of just doing an outline on each nostril with that liquid eyeliner. You can also use your black face paint for this in a paintbrush. I like to use the eyeliner just because it gives a real thin line, especially at the top. So you'll see I do a line, and I kind of have one side that's a little bit longer than the other. Just because when you're looking at a skull, generally it's kind of like that. You can make them exactly the same size if you want. So I've done an outline, and now I'm going to take my paintbrush and fill in the outline that I've created. So you don't need any water. I use my finger to get the main spots, and then any smaller areas you can come back in with your paintbrush. So just dab that on there. Make sure you rub your finger good into your palette for your color. And now I'm going to use that paintbrush to get in those smaller areas and kind of fill in a little bit more right there on the edge of my nose that connects up to that line. And I'm going to do that on the other side. And then I'm also going to fill in my nostril just a little bit more. So if you turn your head, you can see where it doesn't quite connect. So I'm just going to connect it a little bit better with that. Next, we're going to move into our mouth lines. So I'm going to draw a line on each side from the corner of my lip up to my ear on both sides. And I want that line to roughly look the same. Next, I'm going to take my sponge, and this is where I kind of blend out that line. So I'm going to start at the line, and you want to do this when your paint is still pretty wet. So you need to work quickly here. And you're just going to pull down from the line that you created and into your face. If you've got a lot of white under there, it'll kind of make a nice gray for you. Now, you can also add a little bit of gray on the bottom of your jawline if you'd like. I didn't in this video, but I would if I'm doing a more complicated design. Next, I'm going to do my teeth. So I'm using my liquid eyeliner just because it's a lot thinner, that paintbrush. And I'm starting in the middle, and I'm doing a line on each side. So I've done 1, 2 from the center, and I'm going to do same thing on the other side, 1 and 2. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing at the bottom. So I'll start in the middle again, exactly where I was at the top. Do 1, 2 lines on the left, and 1, 2 on the right. And now I'm just going to kind of fade it out just a little bit up underneath, adding a little bit more color. And I'm also going to use my sponge in just a second to kind of blend it out, but I'm just redefining that line a little bit on the edges of my lips. So now I'm going to come in with my sponge. I kind of purse my lips just a little bit to kind of blend out the inside. And I'm going to do that at the top, and you can kind of close your lips onto the sponge. So cool, there's my teeth. Now we're going to be moving on to our eye color. I've chosen purple, and I'm going to use my finger because my eye's pretty big space. I'm just going to kind of dab that color on there first and then blend it out with my finger. You could also use your paintbrush for this. This is where we want to be a little more symmetrical in our design. So whatever shape you create on this side of your face, you want to repeat on the other side. And basically, I'm just outlining my eye socket, right wherever my eye fits into my face. So I made an outline and now I'm kind of filling it in. Then I'm going to take a clean finger and I'm going to blend out my edge a little bit more into the white, just so that it's not so contrasty, that purple right next to the white. So I'm coming back over with that other finger just to blend out the color. Now I'm going to use that same original finger that I had done with the paint, and I'm going to outline again and fill in. I like to do the top and then the bottom. It doesn't matter really which you decide to do. And I'm going to go ahead and round out the bottom. You can see how it's not quite symmetrical from my other side, so I add a little bit more along the base. I'm looking for that same tone and the same rough shape from both sides. So I'm looking at both of those shapes. And that's pretty close. I'm going to add a little bit more color at the base on both sides, just to make it a little more contrasty. And there we go. Now I'm going to blend out with that cleaner finger along the edge again. You may need to completely clean your finger, and you can just use your paper towel and clean up that finger if you're not finding that it's blending out well enough. So cleaning off my finger. Now I'm going to take my liquid eyeliner and I'm going to go along my eye. You don't have to do this if you're not comfortable with it getting that close to your eye. I just like to do it because it makes my eye stand out just a little bit more with that liquid eyeliner. So I'm just going along the base of my eyelashes, and next I'm going to be outlining my eye socket with the black. So I'm using my paintbrush this time, and instead of doing one swoop all the way around my face or my eye socket, I do the top and then I come back in the center and I connect the other side. For the sake of symmetry, I go ahead and do both sides at the top first, and then I'm going to come from that corner and come swoop and connect. And now I'm going to do that on the other side. Come from the corner, swoop down, and connect, and refine if I need to. So there we go with that. Sometimes I'll add a little extra, like flower petals along the outside edge after this. But in this particular video, I didn't. So you can get as detailed as you want. Next, I'm going to be doing a flower in the center of my forehead. So this is where symmetry matters again, right? I'm going to find the center. I basically go up from the center of my nose, right, straight up into my forehead and make that semicircle. Then I'm going to make all my little petals, and I'm going to start on one side and do the same thing on the other. And then I'm going to do the center one. And then I'm going to do one in between. So now you see that it lines up. Now I'm going to do one in between the other two that I've done. This is again to keep that symmetry. I don't find that it stands out enough, so I'm going to make the center of my flower a little bit orange. So I'm blending my yellow and my red together to make a little bit of orange so that it stands out good. And I didn't find that it was dark enough, so I'm going to add a little bit more red to that yellow, and now we can see it a little bit better. Next, I'm going to do just a little design on the side of my eye using green this time. You can use any color that you want. And I'm just making a little swoop. And remember, what I do on one side, I do at the other. Then I'm going to do one at the bottom on both sides. And then one at the top. Sometimes I'll even do this with my paintbrush and dip it into my paint if I want thinner lines. Here I just did it with my finger, and it's okay. So I'm going to clean my finger. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of detail work. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to fill in the negative space of where my chin is. This is just kind of thin out my skeleton face. You don't have to do this part because then it kind of gets rid of that shadow that you had created. So it's really up to you. You could also fill all of this in with black like I'm doing. Make your outline first and then blend a little white over it to make it a little more grayed out instead of completely black. So those are a couple of options. Again, you can also add a little bit of gray along the bottom jaw instead of it being all white like I've got it. Once I fill this in, I kind of notice, I look back in the mirror and see that one side just looks a little bit wider than the other. So I'm going to fix that so I'm looking back at my symmetry on both sides of my face. Now I'm just going to fill that in just like that to make it even. Now that looks much better. Next I'm going to do some detail work. Now that I've done my main design, I'm going to use my liquid eyeliner because it's that small tip again. And I've decided to do a little spiral design. So I'm starting from the center. I'm going to kind of swoop over to the right and then back up to the top. I didn't have enough paint, so I dipped back in and I'm going to finish that line all the way back up to the top. And I'm going to connect those two. And there we go with our spiral. Now I'm going to add a little petal line on each of the petals. And again, not quite enough paint. I might have to dip back in every once in a while if I don't have enough. So you'll see when you're drawing with the liquid eyeliner, if it gets, your lines get thick, then you might need to re-dip. And every once in a while it also gets clumpy, so I just cleaned it off. Now I'm going to take my paintbrush and dip it back into the black, and I'm going to outline those little designs on the side of my face. These sometimes I do in one swoop, sometimes I do a connect. I find it easier on one side of my face to do one long swoop, and on the other I do two. And that's just because I'm right-handed and I'm doing the opposite side of my face. So that's why it's a little bit easier to do one swoop on one side and two on the other. And I'm just checking for symmetry again. Looks good. Here's the part where you can add any other decorative elements. Here I've got a cute headband, and I've got these little sticker jewels that I found at the dollar store. You could also add like a plastic spider with a little glue dot. You could, instead of doing flowers on your face design, you could do spider webs. You could do other tiny skulls. Any little frilly design. And these are just self-adhesive. They have adhesive on the back, and I'm just sticking them right on. And then I'm going to add some decorative earrings. You could even add a necklace piece. I've done that in the past too. It all just adds to that design, that final finished design. So check out your local dollar store and you can find lots of little goodies to add to your skeleton design. You guys, that was so much fun. If you think that you're really into this, there's also a brand that I suggest of face paint that you could purchase online called Snazzaroo. It's a cream-based paint, and it just applies super easy. It's very opaque from the beginning. It blends really well. It's a little bit more on the expensive side, so this is why I suggest that this is if you feel like this is where you're going next, right? Then you can check that out. It's called Snazzaroo, and it's usually between $15 to $20. and then it comes with a set of paintbrushes and sometimes a sponge. I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson, and thanks for following along. I also hope you learned something new about the Day of the Dead and learned some good tips when doing your festive makeup. Let's boogie on out of here and enjoy the fall weather, shall we? But don't forget to come back next week for a new virtual art studio. Thanks, you guys.